Daredevil, Born Again Season 2's finale has led many to theorize about a Matt Murdock appearance in Spider-Man, Brand New Day. The ending of Daredevil, Born Again Season 2 changed the status quo for the street-level MCU scene, somewhat concluding the story that began with Season 1. However, that is not to say Daredevil, Born Again didn't set up future MCU shows and movies. Many believe that one such movie is Spider-Man, Brand New Day, set for release in July 2026. Although Spider-Man was absent from Daredevil, Born Again Season 2, this has not stopped audiences from further theorizing about an MCU team-up between the two New York-based superheroes. This is not something new, as MCU theories tying the two together have been commonplace for the past decade or so. After Daredevil, Born Again Season 2, a story in which New York was literally taken over by an authoritarian regime that outlawed vigilantism, the calls for a Spider-Man crossover were more prevalent than ever. Many find it difficult to believe that Spider-Man would not have gotten involved in the fight against Wilson Fisk and his anti-vigilante task force at all. Now, thanks to Matt Murdock's imprisonment in Daredevil, Born Again Season 2's finale, a theory for how Spider-Man could be roped into all this has surfaced. An MCU theory claims Spider-Man breaks Matt Murdock out of prison. Copyright 2026 Sony Pictures Entertainment. The theory in question stems from a specific scene shown in the trailer for Spider-Man, Brand New Day. The trailer featured a lot of exciting elements, including Daredevil's own Punisher, played by Jon Bernthal. However, one of the more Daredevil-coded elements was Spider-Man's fight against several ninjas clad in red. These ninjas seemingly belong to the Hand, a clandestine organization first introduced in Season 2 of Netflix's Daredevil. The Hand appears in several shots of the Spider-Man, Brand New Day trailer, but one in particular has caused the links to Daredevil, Born Again. At one point, Spider-Man is shown being confronted by the Hand in a prison. In the final moments of Daredevil, Born Again Season 2, Matt Murdock was imprisoned after revealing himself as the titular vigilante in court. This, the shot of Spider-Man in the prison, and the Hand's link to Daredevil have proven enough to convince theorists that the latter will appear in Spider-Man, Brand New Day. Story-wise, it is all but impossible to say why Spider-Man would be breaking Matt Murdock out of prison at this point, but that is the crux of the theory. Some have claimed that Matt's identity reveal will lead the Hand to try and assassinate him in prison after their former feud, with Spider-Man coming to his rescue. Again, why this would be important to Brand New Day's story is simply conjecture. That said, the Hand's appearance in Brand New Day, Punisher's role, and the tentative prison connection have caused theories to run rampant once again, with audiences hoping Marvel fulfills their wishes. Would Daredevil appearing in Spider-Man, Brand New Day work? Speaking from a fanservice perspective, of course, having Daredevil appear in Spider-Man, Brand New Day would be epic and an automatic home run for Marvel in terms of crowd-pleasing. However, looking at it from a narrative point of view, it is worth questioning whether a Daredevil role would work in the 2026 movie. There have been instances in the past of big shows harming their own stories with cameos from other characters, such as the Book of Boba Fett's ties to The Mandalorian and how the latter's third season was impacted by the former. When looking at the story of Daredevil, Born Again Season 3, this could be repeated by Matt's theorized role in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Daredevil, Born Again Season 2 provided ramifications for Matt in a huge way. If Season 3 began with Matt free, running around as Daredevil once more, with only the quick explanation that Spider-Man freed him in another story, the impact of Season 2's finale would be lessened massively. Evidently, the showrunners have a clear plan in mind for where Daredevil, Born Again will go after Season 2. A possible cameo in Spider-Man, Brand New Day could derail that somewhat. Concerning the story of Spider-Man, Brand New Day itself, there is no real precedent for Daredevil to appear. Again, currently, Spider-Man freeing Matt Murdock from prison and defending him from the Hand would simply have to be explained as, because it's cool. Narratively, there is no connection between the two based on what we know of Spider-Man, Brand New Day thus far. The film will seemingly explore Peter Parker's loneliness, his physical evolution into a new kind of Spider-Man, his rivalry with Mac Gargan/Scorpion, and a new villain that causes Bruce Banner/Hulk to get involved. Adding the Hand and Punisher to this, Daredevil's inclusion would likely result in Spider-Man, Brand New Day being overstuffed. Of course, I'm a fan, and Daredevil being in the movie would be awesome, but from a story perspective, it likely wouldn't work. Sooner or later, Daredevil and Spider-Man need to cross paths. Regardless of whether Spider-Man, Brand New Day is the right project to include Daredevil, the two need to cross paths in the MCU. There is too much hype surrounding this team-up for Marvel to ignore, to the point where it is possibly the most desired crossover in the MCU's history. When looking at their comic book roots, Spider-Man and Daredevil have interacted a lot. They have similar villains and are both street-level New York heroes, often leading them to interact. With Daredevil, Born Again fleshing out the street-level side of the MCU, not having Spider-Man involved at some point would be a huge missed opportunity. If not in Spider-Man, Brand New Day, this needs to happen, be it in Daredevil, Born Again Season 3 or beyond. A Spider-Man and Daredevil team-up would bring Tom Holland's character back to his roots. Copyright 2026 Sony Pictures Entertainment. Finally, aside from just being cool, a Spider-Man and Daredevil team-up could bring the former back to his roots. For a while, many have criticized Tom Holland's Spider-Man for being too involved in the wider universe. After being the mentee of Tony Stark, fighting Thanos, and having several multiversal adventures, the MCU could do with making Spider-Man a street-level hero once more. Spider-Man, Brand New Day seems to be doing just that, which future projects should continue. If so, Daredevil would be the perfect character to continue this. Not only would it satisfy fans, but it would have a benefit on Tom Holland's iteration of